We're thrilled to kick off the webinar, Why DIY Digital Experience Hosting is a Thing of the Past. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. If you have any audio issues, please send them in the Q&A tab, which is that little tab in the bar you're probably familiar with already. I'm happy to assist you. If you have any questions for the presenters, we also ask that you use that Q&A tab and we'll submit them there and we'll answer them at the closing of the presentation. Slides and the recording of this webinar will be posted to acquia.com and also sent to you via email directly within the next few days. I will be posting a Uber Eats gift card code in the chat as well. So please feel free to redeem that today. So without further delay, I'm actually going to pass it over to Maggie to kick off today's webinar.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. And hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining us today. We've got a really exciting webinar to walk through. My name is Maggie Schroeder. I'm a Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Acquia, and I'll pass it over to Danielle if you'd like to introduce yourself as well.
Yes, thanks so much for having me today. My name is Danielle Greshak, and I'm a Senior Manager at AWS, and I run the Partner Solutions Architecture team that works with ISVs based in the Americas.
Awesome. Thanks, Danielle. Great. And we've got a really packed agenda today for you all. So we're going to start off by talking about what makes a comprehensive cloud platform that's going to ultimately benefit your customers and your end users. The second part is going to be about some of those costs of DIY hosting and also maybe some hidden costs that you might not have considered. So we're going to touch on, just the tip of the iceberg, but then we're going to dive even deeper into some of, again, the other costs you might not have considered. And finally, we're going to wrap it up by explaining how you can get to market faster without overspending and really considering all of those costs we address in part 2 and solving for that in part 3. So again, really exciting content. And of course, Stephanie emphasized this in the beginning, but feel free to contribute questions. I see everyone chatting about the snowstorm in the Northeast. For those of you who are in the Northeast, I hope you all have your shovels out. And for those of you who are joining us from other parts of the US and also other countries, welcome again. And so with that, I'm going to pass it back to Danielle to kick us off.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, I've been working with Acquia since 2014, and I know many of you are kind of here because you want to understand what really makes a comprehensive hosting platform and, why is Acquia perhaps the right decision for you. And so, for 14 years, AWS has been one of the leading cloud providers, and we really have the most depth and breadth of services available and features. And many of our APIs, they really offer developers the ability to have a lot more flexibility and scalability and elasticity that they really need. And both the AWS product teams as well as the Acquia product teams really innovate based on this customer feedback too. And so that customer focused innovation is something that is really important. And Acquia has decoupled their framework, which really allows for content creators to access content from both a centralized repo and then allows front-end developers and back-end developers to really operate independently, making it the most effective for what you're trying to do. And so if we go on to the next slide, part of the things that Acquia has really chosen to leverage on top of AWS, first and foremost, is the use of containers. So Acquia is the first Kubernetes native enterprise-grade Drupal hosting platform. And Amazon EKS is really optimized for Drupals with regards to the ability to have self-healing as well as resiliency across a global platform. And this allows customers to really have these this ability to have decoupled solution, so that way they can scale and have that flexibility that they need. So our joint technologies really provide a dual value, enable that unified solution versus the decoupled DIY offering that you might run with Drupal running it by yourself. So with Acquia solutions on AWS, again, our customers can scale, integrate, and have that agility and security. And then with regards to Aurora, Aurora is an enterprise grade database, relational database, but that you can also run, MySQL or Postgres, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And then finally, the Acquia also leverages the EFS, Elastic File System, in order to have, incredible scale with regards to file systems. So just to dive a little bit deeper into the containers part of it on the next slide, one really important thing to know is containers are really a first-party solution on AWS. They are deeply integrated. They have, they use IAM security, VPC networking, and load balancing and auto scaling. And then also, it's really important to know that, you can integrate your DevOps workflow with the AWS DevTools and Cloud9. And then finally, you get built-in security and compliance by using containers on top of AWS, which Acquia does. And there's built-in compliance for ISO, HIPAA, PCI, et cetera. And really, AWS is the #1 place to run containers, and 80% of all containers in the cloud actually run on AWS. And then, to dive in a little bit more on Aurora. So on the next slide, many customers have really been very dissatisfied with old guard, database providers that have punitive licenses and really have that lock-in. And, many customers have decided to really move to open source databases such as MySQL and Postgres. And part of the reason why Aurora is such a great solution for developers using Acquia to use is because it really provides that enterprise performance with open source technology. Aurora really provides, we've done some benchmarking, and it provides 5 times the throughput of just regular MySQL, and 3 times the throughput for Postgres. And so Acquia's implementation of Aurora really passes those benefits onto you. And again, it is delivered as a managed service. So some of the undifferentiated heavy lifting is, taken care of for you. So in the next slide, just to kind of dive into the architecture briefly of what Amazon Aurora, how it's able to deliver this increased throughput. So it really has a purpose-built log structured distributed storage system. That's really key. And this is really designed for databases. So, without going too deep into the storage nerdy bits here, really the volumes are striped across hundreds of nodes, available, 3 availability zones. And then we have copies of data across these availability zones that really helps not just with throughput and speed, but also really against availability zone failures, which is unique to AWS. And this, these principles apply across the stack. So just a little bit of more detail there. But, finally, if we go to the next slide, there's a lot of advantages of putting your data and your content into AWS. Again, so AWS has really been the market leader since 2006. And we have this global footprint, which, if you're trying to reach a global customer base, this, you can go global in minutes with AWS and Acquia together. And it provides you high availability and scalability that you need. And solutions on top of AWS like Acquia really inherit a lot of the key benefits around security, scalability, and elasticity, as well as that pace of innovation that we have. And this is really important for Drupal. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Maggie to talk about the important parts of Drupal and why this benefits folks running Drupal on AWS.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Danielle. I think, such exciting stuff going on at AWS, and some fun facts as well about Acquia and AWS. Acquia actually started off, we were born in the cloud, so to speak. So we started off with the very first series of EC2 nodes on AWS. So that was about, I think, 12 years ago, maybe 13. And Danielle said, AWS has been around for 14 years. So we really strove to be, an early adopter of cloud, because we recognize, just how flexible and agile you can be when you leverage cloud technologies. And I love that Danielle walked us through, a couple different new technologies that Acquia has adopted. So we've gone from, again, that very first EC2 instance to now leveraging containers and Aurora database services on AWS. So super excited to be, again, part of this collaboration with AWS and Acquia. But with that, you'll hear a little bit more about how Acquia and AWS are teaming up to provide customers with the most value possible. But before we go into that, I did want to just quickly run through some of the costs that are perceived of DIY hosting and hosting, as well as some that you might not be considering. So we're going to hang on to this slide for a little, and it may seem super simple, right? We just walked through Aurora as a database, web servers, which could be containerized, but there are many other aspects of your infrastructure that you need to consider when you're hosting a Drupal application. Right? It's not just a simple setup. You have to consider that a Drupal application is supporting your customers' experiences. And customers today expect these experiences to be fast. They expect them to be available. And they're also expecting them to be secure. So when you're building out this infrastructure, there's many different layers that you need to consider beyond just the database and the web servers. There's also load balancers, there's a CDN, there's the file systems, there's storage to consider. Right? And it's all up to you when you choose DIY to build this out and also optimize each of these layers for Drupal, right? If you want Drupal as your application to run as effectively as possible, it's really important to be choosing, again, the best technologies out there to support that type of application. And getting that specific, it's kind of hard when you have to consider all of the other applications that exist within your organization. And so beyond just, providing all of these different layers of your infrastructure, you also have to consider monitoring and management tools as well to ensure availability of that application of Drupal and of your experience. Because again, your customers are expecting this content that you're providing across Drupal, across your CMS to be always up and available. And beyond just implementing monitoring and management tools, right, you have to build in resiliencies. Danielle walked through how they have resilience built right into Aurora, but that's not always the case for all of the technologies you build. So it's something you have to consider, again, at every layer of the stack, because if you're not building in that type of resilience into your infrastructure, again, that can be detrimental to the uptime and the content being delivered to your end users. And again, when it comes to Drupal, right, you've got a team of developers who are also depending on this infrastructure to support their development environments. And so it's not just supporting your production application, it's supporting all layers of that application's life cycle and making sure, again, that each of these environments are optimized for Drupal and Drupal development, which again can be nuanced and different from all of your other enterprise applications that exist within your organization. And finally, right, something to not skip here is that all of these layers of your stack need to be secure, especially for a digital experience. You don't want your, best day out there to become your worst day out there because of any type of security breach or even a misstep when it comes to abiding by compliance standards that might be mandated by your industry. So who's really impacted by this? And if we flip over to the next slide, you can see that there are a lot of different personas or team members that are contributing to your digital experience. And of course, some of them are obvious, right? You've got your developers and your IT administrators really managing and monitoring this environment. And some of the different considerations that you have to take into account for these developers and IT administrators is that in order to maintain, again, we walked through all those different layers of the stack and all of the different considerations that need to be taken into account, right? It's going to take ongoing training to make sure that they're trained up on best practices and to make sure that, they're understanding the best way to go to market and not really go to market, rather deploy these applications. Right. And finally, of course, you're always looking to do more with less. Right. So it's all about maintaining that balance between resource optimization, as well as ensuring performance at scale. And finally, of course, you're tasking these developers and IT administrators with monitoring and ensuring, again, that this experience that you're creating for your customers is always up and always available. And what that's all doing, if we look at all of these tasks that we're putting on our team, is it's taking away from time that they could be spending innovating and doing other tasks within your organization. And if we flip to the next slide, we can kind of kick that off by thinking about, again, all of these costs that could be taking away that time. Things like platform compliance, right? That takes audits and yearly maintenance, system monitoring, different security features. And I addressed a lot of these, but really the list is comprehensive. And actually the list you're seeing on the screen here, if you go to Acquia versus DIY, it's a web page that we have on our site. You can see a comprehensive list of all the considerations that you have to take into account for your platform, as well as for your Drupal application when it comes to DIY hosting. And it also compares it to what Acquia does out of the box with our cloud platform. But again, before I get into that, if you'll flip to the next slide, we talked a lot about the infrastructure that needs to support your digital experience and how that takes away time that could be spent innovating. And what that really lends itself to, right, is it impacts your speed to market. And so DIY can really hold you back because organizations like yourselves joining the call, right, you're expected to pivot and adopt new channels and technologies super quickly. And beyond just adopting, new channels, it's your customers are demanding that content is delivered across these new channels. I even think of myself just in the past 9 months of being in quarantine, and I hate to bring that up because no one likes to talk about it. But unfortunately, it's our reality, right? And over the past 9 months, I've engaged in 2 new channels that I can, clearly state. And I, of course, never wearing it when I give this example. I kid you not, if you watch any of my previous webinars, I love using this example, but I bought an Apple Watch right at the beginning of quarantine, and I use it on my walks every day. But I expect there to be content delivered to that Apple Watch. And that's a new channel that organizations have had to pivot and decide how can we quickly deliver content that customers want to consume onto that channel. It's very nuanced, very different from just delivering a typical site experience. And another example is I purchased a Google Home, and I ask Google Home questions almost every day. Every morning I start off by saying, what's the weather today? Right? So customers are engaging digitally more and more as a result of COVID, and they're engaging across many different channels that we never could have anticipated even 5 years ago. I never would have worn an Apple Watch 5 years ago, and I probably wouldn't have purchased a Google Home, right? That was still at the cutting edge, but now it's quickly becoming a new reality. And so if you're taking time out of your day focusing on, just ongoing maintenance of your infrastructure rather than innovation, right? It's going to take away from that time it takes to get to market with that content on those channels where your customers are expecting content to be delivered. And if you'll flip to the next slide, we actually, right, we already talked a lot about this, right? But you're taxing your own resources. And it's more so than just taxing, right, the availability or the delivery again of this content across different channels, but it's also ensuring, right, availability as you scale. So as you continue to scale out your site portfolio, as you can continue to be successful with even your existing experiences, right, you're expected to scale and maintain and manage that infrastructure and troubleshoot. And if you're in that as a DIY type of approach, right, you are really your own support. at the end of the day, especially for your Drupal application. There's no one who your team can call to say, hey, we're having some trouble with our Drupal application right now. Can you help out? Right? It's really important when you're delivering at scale to have a team that you can access to help support your application 24/7, right? And have that expertise in that specific application, and in this case, Drupal, right? And have someone to help you to guarantee uptime. Because again, you don't want your best day to become your worst, and that can happen super quickly when you have impacts to performance of your application as well as the uptime. And if you'll flip to the next slide, it's not just the performance at scale and the resources it takes to maintain performance at scale. It also comes down to ensuring compliance and security, because availability really is twofold. It depends on the performance at scale, but it also depends on maintaining the security of your application, because uptime can be impacted not just by the inability to scale quickly enough. It can also be impacted by something as simple as a DDoS attack, right? That can critically affect your ability to deliver, and it can also ultimately impact the ability, to maintain your brand's reputation. And we've seen it happen time and time again. It's critical to ensure that your application and that your Drupal experiences are secure, so that your customers can continue to have that confidence in you to deliver and keep their data secure and safe. And lastly, if you'll flip to the next slide, Stephanie, there are organizations that can help, so take away some of this, all of that trouble that it takes to set up infrastructure and optimize all of that for Drupal. Take away, all of that time that it takes to not only implement security best practices, but keep that going, right? There are new and evolving best practices that come out every day, right? And you need a team that's specialized in security for your specific Drupal application in order to maintain, again, the best performance possible for your application. And also, we talked about support, right? Right now with DIY, you could be leaving this all up to your team. When you provide that kind of support, an expert team of Drupal experts to support your Drupal application, your team's Drupal application, that are available 24/7. Well, that's what Acquia does, right? We've got over 200 support members on our team, ready and available 24/7, not just to help you with the infrastructure that supports your Drupal application, but also to support you in troubleshooting for your application. Because we bring with us that expertise in Drupal and understanding all of the nuances that go into delivering a Drupal application and ensuring that it's performant and secure. And so, Stephanie, if you'll go to the next slide, right? So ultimately, what that's all about for Acquia is ensuring that you can get to market as fast as possible. It's ensuring that you're delivering the best experiences possible for your Drupal application and for your customers. And if you'll flip over to the next slide, typically the customers that we work with who migrate over from a DIY hosting to hosting with Acquia on our cloud platform save up to 40%, right? Because ultimately what they're doing is, it's not just about the savings that they get from infrastructure or, again, the ongoing maintenance of that infrastructure that Acquia has a whole team to support, right? It's all about how taking away from all of that maintenance can help their teams to deliver projects much faster and do work to, again, continue to innovate and optimize the experience that they're delivering to their customers. And if you flip to the next slide, again, some super concrete examples of how Acquia is helping customers do this, right? We've got our cloud platform, which is super fast and flexible and scales. And you saw a little bit under the hood from what Danielle addressed in the beginning. But again, containers to make sure that your application can scale to accommodate any type of demand, and also scale to accommodate any number of sites that you want to deliver, again, as part of your digital experience, whether that be, just within your own country or even globally. Also, fully managed platform security, right? Because again, I keep talking about how you don't want your best day to be your worst, and it's really true. So we take security very seriously at Acquia, and not only do we build it into your platform, but we also provide additional innovative security measurements and innovations that you can tack on to your cloud platform to make sure, again, that you are delivering the most performant and secure experience possible for your customers. And finally, right, your developers, they want their development tools to be best in breed. They want them to be optimized for Drupal. They want them to be the best they can be to ensure that they can be as agile as possible to really accelerate the development process. And so Acquia is dedicated to that Drupal developer, and we leverage, our connections to the Drupal community to make sure that we are creating, again, Drupal optimized development tools, such as the newly released cloud integrated development environments, or cloud IDEs, which are going to fully optimized for Drupal out of the box and completely eliminate that. And if any developers are on the call, you'll totally understand where I'm going with this, but it doesn't work on my machine. We hear that all of the time, and cloud IDEs sought to eliminate that problem and make it so that you could have an environment up and running in minutes. And finally, of course, supporting this entire environment with a 99.95% uptime SLA, as well as a highly skilled Drupal support team. Again, making sure that your best day doesn't turn into your worst, and that you're fully supported no matter what issues occur, if any do at all. And what this strives, right, all of this takes a lot of the different efforts off of the table so that once again, you can focus on innovation. And what I mean by that, and if you flip to the next slide, is enabling an agile enterprise, right? So today we're really looking and relying on developers and even platform administrators down at the bottom here to deliver these digital experiences. But there are new and innovative ways that you can incorporate more of the members of your team. And of course, some of the personas you see, like digital marketers, but maybe experienced designers and line of business users. You might not use those terms within your organization, but think of it like this. You have your digital marketers, and then you might have someone who likes to build out sites, but they might not be as technical as your most technical developer, right? So they might be considered an experienced designer. An experienced designer could also sit within your brand team. And line of business users, right? I would even consider myself a line of business user. I work on our product team as a product marketing manager, but I expect to be able to help and deliver content to our digital experiences at Acquia. And it's critical for us, right, to enable and all of these different team members who want to contribute to the digital experiences to do so in a way that's effective and scalable. And so, of course, by taking, again, that weight of infrastructure maintenance and management and providing expert support, you're enabling those developers and those platform administrators to say, hey, there are new technologies out there where we can start to incorporate our digital marketers' asks and needs, and incorporate some new technologies such as low-code site building to enable, again, some of those line of business users and even experienced designers to contribute without further bogging down, right, the developer with new tasks. And so, Stephanie, if you'll flip to the next slide, this really sums it up from the Acquia side. And a lot of this is focused on our cloud platform, but of course, there are many other technologies that Acquia provides to both the digital marketing team, as well as, again, the whole team of developers and IT administrators, even enterprise architects that help to deliver a very comprehensive digital experience that's performant and scalable, reliable, and is backed by experts on Drupal. And so that's really the summary from the Acquia side. But also there are tangible reasons, and Danielle walked through this at the beginning, why we entered into a collaboration with AWS. And it's because their foundation provides performance, scalability, reliability, and expertise as well, which is why we chose AWS as our preferred cloud platform. So Danielle, I'll pass it over to you because I know that, I'd love to give you a chance to kind of walk through what these different pillars mean from the AWS perspective.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, Maggie. So, as we talked about a little bit earlier with regards to AWS, we have a global platform and a global footprint. And so that is what allows solutions like Acquia on AWS to have, high performance. And we continue to innovate in order to provide that benefit in areas such as file systems, databases, and containers in order to have, efficiency. Excuse me. And, that scalability really, allows companies like Acquia, to be able to spin up infrastructure whenever they might need it, for new customers, for viral events, to handle such things as, events like the Grammys or other, viral events. These are very important to be able to support from a content perspective. And, Acquia on AWS has really been able to deliver high scalability, that's pretty unparalleled. So, and then with regards to, reliability, not only does AWS provide a lot of redundancy throughout, the platform, but also, it's important to note that Acquia has also taken advantage of a lot of self-healing and, monitoring tools, which really allows both response times to be very fast with regards to any kind of an issues, or also just kind of resolving some things that go bump in the night, which, as we know, sometimes can happen. And then again, with proven expertise, obviously, Acquia has the expertise in Drupal, and AWS provides, solutions architects, professional services, et cetera, in order to have that expertise in cloud, as well as, a great deal of experience in this space as well. And so I think actually on the next slide, sorry, Maggie, go ahead.
No, that's great. And yeah, go ahead, Danielle.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things, again, back to AWS's customer focused nature, we really like to have our customers actually speak to the benefits here. And these are actually Acquia customers who have done that. And these run the gamut of different industries, from education to commercial to government. And so I'll just kind of highlight these really quickly. So, Georgia Gov Interactive has been able to save almost $5 million in 5 years, with the increased efficiencies in infrastructure, licensing, maintenance costs, and really drive that efficiency in cost. And then, at GW, George Washington University, they were really able to take advantage of the scalability and the speed to market, and migrate into Acquia in just 7 weeks, with over 300 sites. And of course, they allude here that this will grow with the use of the site factory tools inside of Acquia. And then finally, Mabomo, they've been able to eliminate a great deal of maintenance and operations. And again, this is, we always talk at AWS about, let us do the undifferentiated heavy lifting of infrastructure as a service. And then Acquia is adding on top of that management for Drupal. And then to really make sure that their customers are having wonderful digital experiences without all of the operation overhead.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Danielle. And there's a ton of different examples of how our customers, again, have really taken advantage of all of the optimization built into the Acquia platform on top of AWS's technologies. And if any of you are familiar with Acquia Engage, there were a ton of different presentations. One of them was AMD using the cloud IDs to accelerate their development process. Another one was Pac-12 being able to scale to accommodate again, the new digital demand for watching their different football games within the Pac-12 organization. Apologies if anyone's a football fan. I definitely butchered the football terminology there. But again, lots of great examples. And we do have a couple questions in chat that I'd love to take. So the first one is from Avram. And it's about the response to downtime, right? So we have a 99.95% uptime SLA. However, typically, again, quarter over quarter, we exceed the 99.95% uptime SLA. That being said, I'd love to provide a really concrete example of the response to, potential downtime. And that was actually on Black Friday this year. And so this year on Black Friday, which was increasingly digital, right? If you think about it, no one's really going to those crazy Black Friday sales anymore. Everyone's really staying inside and doing all their shopping from their computer. And our support team on that day, I got the report, I believe on the Sunday following, was able to respond to all critical tickets within 3 minutes. So again, if you think about that, right, that really speaks to both the expertise within our support team, but also just how many team members we have supporting our customers' applications. So once again, right, on Black Friday, any critical tickets were answered in 3 minutes. So you really do have that expert support team at your fingertips. And then the second question that I saw come through from Joshua was, we're talking a lot about the technical ability to scale, and totally makes a lot of sense, right? I think that lends itself really well to the Black Friday example that I provided, right? Lots of demand on that day, and Acquia was really prepared to help their customers scale. But the one thing that he's curious to hear about is how costs scale on Acquia versus a customer building something and managing something themselves. And that's an awesome question. So really, when you think about it, right, there are a few different angles that I want to take this question from. And so first and foremost, right, if you think about it, if you are using a DIY approach, are you optimizing the portion of your stack for your Drupal application? Right, so Acquia is building in that optimization. A really great example of this are the 4 different layers of caching that we have built in to our applications, as well as an out-of-the-box CDN, and again, other features that are specific to a Drupal application. And that being said, right, so how do costs scale? So we aren't taking, it's not just, looking at, hey, you scaled out today, we're going to charge you for that. What Acquia does is we take into account what is the value metric that you're getting from that scalable event, right? So ultimately, it's how many customers of yours came to your site and again, viewed that content. And so that's really how we're basing the costs rather than attaching it directly to a hardware, because there are many more tangible benefits that are built on top of that hardware, whether that be, again, that CDN that you get included, whether it be the cloud integrated development environment that you get included. So again, you're getting a lot more bang for your buck built into the cloud platform. Awesome. Oh, and then I see just one more. Fully managed secure. You mentioned fully managed security platform as a benefit for customers. Can you provide more information on Acquia's inventory and configuration management security features on AWS? What kind of monitoring and/or security does Acquia leverage on top of AWS? And that is an awesome question. We actually have a really comprehensive security data sheet on our website, but I can walk you through a few ways that we think about this. So first of all, security by design, and just to name, a few features that are built-in platform security features of the Drupal cloud. A few of them are decreasing. We decrease illegitimate traffic with GeoIP. We establish, really secure connections to your Drupal application with custom SSL certificates. We help improve LAMP security with Apache mod proxy support. And then, something that's actually really cool and very unique to the Acquia cloud platform that we build on top of it for platform security is scanning all file uploads by leveraging the ClamAV module. So what this is going to do is whenever there's a file uploaded to your site, it's going to scan that to make sure that it's a secure file, that's not going to impact, again, the security or impact your site in a negative way. And that's something super unique to Acquia. And we're providing that security, again, as part of our cloud platform. And there are tons more that I didn't address here, right? Because that's just talking about platform security. There's also our expert security staff. So we have actually 3 dedicated security teams. And as part of that, right, there's a security awareness training that's required for all Acquia employees. And so again, we're really taking security very seriously internally for our security teams and making sure that we provide our customers with the best possible security. And on top of that, right, I mentioned previously that we offer additional features for security. So there's Acquia Shield VPC. There's also a WAF that we have available that's super comprehensive and has even custom Drupal-specific rules to ensure, once again, that security. And finally, this is actually part of the platform as well, not just an add-on, is we are part of the Drupal Steward program and one of the founding members of the Drupal Steward program. And what that does is it's going to protect, it's going to put in a patch on your site for any identified security vulnerabilities before they are released. And so what that means is that when the Drupal Association tweets out like, hey, there's been this type of vulnerability identified, Acquia already has gone ahead and patched your environment so that you have time to make that fix. And not disrupt your workflow as a result of, seeing that on Twitter and realizing like, oh no, I have to go in and fix it. So tons more where that came from, and definitely happy to, drop the link to the security features data sheet into the chat. Awesome. Cool. And I think we had, Stephanie, did you see, I think I saw 2 questions for AWS, but I might've missed them.
I think there's some more actually in the chat room, or sorry, in the Q&A. So would Acquia be a good solution for a small business?
Yeah.
Say yes.
Absolutely. Oh, sorry, I totally missed these. Tons of questions coming in. Sorry about that. Yes, absolutely would be a great solution for a small business. Again, having all of those different features built in, super beneficial, right? Because small business, I'm thinking maybe a smaller team. So instead of having to manage the infrastructure, set up those developer environments, implement a CDN and optimize that CDN for Drupal, and all of those other different steps, right? We build it all in for you. So definitely a great solution for that. And what about non-Drupal sites hosted on Acquia? Is it possible to host a static HTML-based site? So Kevin, it is not. However, we do have a lot of tools that make Drupal a lot easier to use. So one of those tools is going to be Acquia's Site Studio. And so what this is, it's a low-code site builder. So if you have a static HTML-based site and you're looking to maybe jumpstart that, definitely a great option for you. It's going to take a Drupal site and make it as easy to use as any of those, site builders that you've seen that use low or even no code at the end of the day. And yeah, definitely keep an eye on that one. It would be a great fit for a static HTML based site. The next one is to go along with the previous question. We build up to 12 to 15 Drupal sites a year. Awesome. 2 to 3 of these are usually large and require high security and large bandwidth. Awesome. So Richard, for your question there, 12 to 15 sites a year, that's a lot. I'm curious to see, what your entire site portfolio looks like. I'm sure it's not small at all at this point. We definitely have solutions for sites at scale. A great solution is Site Factory. A great example of a customer who uses this is Stanford. So Stanford has, I believe, almost, it's over 2,000 sites in their site portfolio, all managed from Site Factory, which is a central, central management system for all of these sites that also helps to maintain governance across all of your sites, no matter how many you have. And a great part of their story is actually at the beginning of COVID, right? They had to respond to the new need for a lot of students to access information about COVID and really prepare for online learning. And over just 7 months, they were able to deploy 200 new sites leveraging Site Factory, and they all met Stanford's brand compliance. So and they definitely require, again, high security, and just because of the breadth of students, right, and faculty, and all other different parts of that organization, they also require large bandwidth. So definitely lots of different examples. Another one is NBC. So we also support the Olympics. So huge bandwidth there as well. So if you're looking for scale, if you're looking for security, I'd say look no further. Awesome.
Yeah, and if I can just add on to what Maggie was just saying with regards to the need for high security and large bandwidth. Again, through Acquia really leveraging Aurora and EKS, they're getting those security benefits that EKS provides built in. They have tight integrations with IAM and KMS, some of our both identity and security key management services. And they can really make sure they have container isolation, as well as a minimization of any kind of issues around, which she alluded to earlier, that can happen with content management sites around DDoS, and auto scaling to deal with situations like that. So to just mention that, and of course Aurora provides that scalability benefit as well.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, Danielle, for adding that context. I think that's great. And then I saw one more question, which is Acquia FedRAMP authorized? Yes, we are FedRAMP authorized. And so that lends itself to a lot of the security features that you'll see that are built into our cloud platform, and also, extensions of those. So yes, we are FedRAMP authorized, and we are, again, the only Drupal hosting platform out there that has that heightened level of security. So something to keep in mind. Cool. I think we covered all questions. Stephanie or Danielle, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, you have it all. Thank you. I think that was some great engagement, which is awesome. So if we have no additional questions, we're actually going to close the presentation. I'm going to just follow up after this for anyone that attended live with the directions on how to redeem your Uber Eats code. So again, we do thank you for joining. Everyone stayed until the end of Q&A too, which means it must have been a good and interesting content. So thank you again. We look forward to seeing you on a future Acquia webinar. And then if you guys have any questions for us, feel free to email at marketing@theacquiateam.com. Any questions for Danielle or Maggie, and we can get them answered for you. Otherwise, we wish you a very happy holiday and a safe and healthy new year. Thank you all.